You're about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So every year we get more and more data on how our kids are doing, and our kids are not doing that well. Now we're being told that nearly 1 in 3 of U.S. teens are pre-diabetic. We're not talking about the adult population. We're talking about 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15, 16, 17, 12 to 17-year-olds being pre-diabetic. Now, usually your teens are out there running around, skateboarding, swimming, cliff diving, but they're socializing, trying to get dates, not having time to eat because they're running around at school, part-time jobs. No, that's not the teen of today. That's how it used to be. The teens of today are somehow turning diabetic. And that's frightening. And pre-diabetes is the precursor to diabetes. So if you have, let's say, diabetes, if your random blood sugar is over 200, or if your fasting blood sugar is over 100, actually 140. There's a range. Let me give you the range. We used to have your range of diabetes. You had to be under 140. Then they changed it to 126. Now they want your fasting blood sugar under 100. Fasting blood sugar of under 100 is kind of tight. So the pre-diabetes range allows, just to give you some backstory, the pre-diabetes range allows there to be some identification of somebody that is turning diabetic. So for example, if you're fasting blood sugar, your random blood sugar, not fasting, you eat breakfast, you go and take a blood sugar. If your random blood sugar is about 185, 190, okay, maybe you're not at the 200 mark, but that's getting close. Whereas if you are over 200, we already call you diabetic. So just to put things into perspective, if you are flirting with the threshold of being full-blown diabetic, there's a range where we call you pre-diabetic, just like with pre-hypertension. And that alerts us as medical providers to ensure that we are going to instill dietary regulations, exercise recommendations, and possibly, if we think you need it, medical intervention. This happens with adults very frequently, but with kids, we don't see kids often, especially in that age group, the age 12 to 17, because they don't necessarily come in for vaccinations at that age group. They are supposed to get a pertussis booster, your DTP, around 12. There's meningitis vaccines if they're due for a tetanus booster. But for the most part, we don't see a lot of kids that often in that teen adolescent age group. So who's doing their blood work? Who's checking their sugars? So to recap, diabetes is when your blood sugar randomly, just taking it out of the blue, is over 200. And if your fasting blood sugar is over 125, we'll say 126 or above. Your pre-diabetes, if you're between 100 and 125 with your fasting blood sugar, and if you're between 140 and 199 with your random blood sugar. Where do we want you? Well, we want you under 99. For you not to be diabetic, we want you under 99 for your fasting and about under 140 for your non-fasting sugar. I know that sounds tight, but if you're eating healthy and you're exercising and you're eating your fruits and vegetables and avoiding processed food, that's not that hard. If you have a family history, yes, that is going to be a struggle. But we work with you. We identify who has a family history. Now, we're talking about type 2 diabetes, not type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetics are those, which we've discussed before on the show, where you don't make enough insulin to help you metabolize your sugar. Type 2 diabetes is where you may have insulin, but there's something kind of pushing against the door, getting the sugar from the bloodstream into the cell. Kind of like a key. Your insulin is the key to the door. You might not have enough insulin or something pushing against that door called insulin resistance. So these individuals, if they do later become diabetic or get diabetes, they could have heart disease, stroke, risk for cancer, kidney disease, eye disease, neuropathy. Our teens should not be pre-diabetic. And we're talking about close to a third. These are CDC numbers, and this is being reported by Fox 16. And they say that the CDC calculated there were 8.4 million children between the ages of 12 and 17 who were labeled pre-diabetic. That translates to 32.7% of the adolescent population. And what bothers me is these are people who, might be followed a little closer. If the average teen is not going into the medical provider, I'm worried this number could be worse. I understand the CDC is estimating it's not that they tested 8.45 million children, but why are we having an adolescent population who is supposed to be at their healthiest, their prime with metabolism, their prime with health, right? You're talking a teen. If I could have the body I had when I was 16 now, wow. These are the individuals that are supposed to later be in our military, are supposed to have babies, take care of us as older individuals, and they are having the same ailments as we are. I've said this before. I'm noticing a lot of people in their 20s already on blood pressure medication and diabetes medication. And it was the adult onset type diabetes, not the diabetes they get as children, which means we are aging faster. We are also an unhealthier population. The two main reasons is lack of exercise and what they eat. When I heard that Congress wants to alter SNAP benefits to not have junk food as incorporated into that, I'm 1,000% behind that. Already states are saying no junk food for SNAP benefits. It has to be vegetables, fish, milk, grain. Absolutely. Because the more junk food people eat, the more they're at risk for diabetes. So we need to do something. We need to get these kids moving. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I keep saying this. If you could keep politics out of the movies, there'll be better movies. If you keep it out of sports, we're happy. If you keep it out of medicine, the patients are happy. And apparently teachers have not gotten the memo. And you can't make this stuff up. Apparently we're being told that the largest teachers union has allegedly made it more of a priority to quote unquote fight Trump than reading, writing, and proficiency for students. And in fact, in their official statement, where they talk about fighting fascism under Trump, they misspell fascism. You can't make this stuff up. And these are teachers. I love teachers. I support our teachers. What our teachers have to do to teach our kids. But are they getting distracted? Are they, refocusing or reprioritizing in the wrong direction? And I see this all the time. Every time an industry starts to infuse politics, they struggle. I mean, look at what happened with beer and with these big box stores. Listen, you could be celebratory and you can love the American flag. You could love the rainbow flag. You can, we're in America and we could support whoever we want. This is what America protects our rights for. But once we see where these movies or sports or medicine starts to take a more political role, they start to lose sight of what actually is going on. And this is very frustrating. And they actually lose sight of doing their job. Yeah, apparently in this, this is the Teachers Union. Hold on a second. It's the National Education Associations. They had new business items. And the new business item is they pledged to defend democracy against Trump's embrace of fascism by using the term fascism in NEA materials to correctly characterize Donald Trump's program and actions. Do they know the definition of fascism? Okay, first, spell it correctly because they spelled it FACISM. Right? All right, you need to teach students how to spell. Not to mention, by the way, this was typed on a computer, so they don't even know how to use autocorrect. And then they want to have these materials character. Don't you have other priorities? Now, somebody could say, Dr. Daliah, that's a rumor. They aren't prioritizing politics. So apparently there was somebody who said there was a convention delegate from Texas who there was that summarized the National Education Association new business items and summarized them by telling, quote, me, this is the person being quoted, the response that a friend of hers got while trying to talk to the other union members about the best ways to teach reading and writing. So while this union member was asking the best way to teach reading and writing, the answer was, we don't have time for that. We've got to fight Trump. Now, listen, I understand that a lot of people feel strongly. They either love Trump or they hate Trump. This isn't anything new. People love him or hate him. And I understand that some people like to make religion their politics their religion. Some people love, I interviewed a medical student where their hobby was watching political news. If that's what they like, that's what they're into, doesn't hurt anybody, do what you want. It's a free country. If you like to watch news and politics and get all involved with polls, that's your thing. But if you have a job to do, you do it. And your job is making sure these kids are proficient in reading and writing, which is why I've always said we need to do school differently, where the morning are the core classes, 20-minute max, 20 maybe to 30-minute max core classes where these kids aren't sitting for an hour getting fat and pre-diabetic. All the core classes done in the morning, they go home for lunch or can have lunch on campus. And then the afternoons are all the practical learning, the exposures to all the trades, construction, plumbing, medicine, marketing, economics. They learn how to farm, hunt, work out, CPR, first aid, another language, Krav Maga. They learn all the practical things they need such that by the time they're 16 years old, they know what they might want to do later in life. And then we keep hearing free college, free college, free college. Then let's have high school stop at age 16. And because the average 16, 17-year-old is sitting there in class going, these teachers suck. So you graduate at the age of 16, and then your 17th and 18th year of life is you getting your associate's degree or your trade within the same high school walls using the same high school tax dollars. It doesn't cost taxpayers a dime, and everybody graduates at the age of 18 with a trade certificate or an associate's degree. Now, I understand not all trade certificates you could do in 2 years, but roughly there'll be options such that everybody at the age of 18 is ready to go into the workforce. And they have an idea of what they want to do because all throughout their schooling, they had that exposure in the afternoons. We really need to reevaluate how we're doing school. But instead, all I keep seeing in every industry is politics, politics, politics. You know, the idea that able-bodied people who are getting Medicaid and taking it away from people who need it. If you don't have kids, if you don't have any medical conditions, and you're between 18 and 64 and can work, then having some work requirements or volunteering or going to school, that is a very healthy option. And there are doctors that are actually against that. There are doctors against SNAP benefits only providing benefits for healthy food and not junk food. Why isn't every doctor on board with not paying for junk food when these kids, a third of them are pre-diabetic? You know, when somebody has a workers' comp injury, we're taught to get them back to work, even if it's part-time, because the longer they're out of work, the more their disability could become and the harder it is for them to get back to work. So while we have that narrative and doctors follow that, on the same hand, you know what? But if they don't want to work and they want to collect Medicaid and they're able-bodied, it's okay. We shouldn't recommend that they get out there 20 hours a week. You're not making sense. Why? Because people are either for the big, beautiful bill or against the big, beautiful bill. What about the patients? Is it really healthy for an able-bodied patient to be sitting there on the couch watching Netflix? They need a purpose. They need to work. We need their tax dollars. And I just don't understand. You know, I've heard doctors actually argue that a fetus is not alive. Now, I don't care where you stand on pro-choice, pro-life, but really, you went to medical school. You went through training. We have maternal fetal medicine. We have specialties in figuring out how to protect a fetus and intervene when they have cardiac abnormalities or metabolic abnormalities. We could do amazing things in maternal fetal medicine, and there are doctors who will say the fetus is not technically alive because of politics. Listen, why can't politics be separate? Everybody do their job, and then off the clock, go and do your politics. But when you see these teachers' associations and our tax dollars going to, well, what we need to do is fight Trump. Listen, I don't care if you like Trump or hate Trump, but we're paying you to teach our kids. And the kids aren't learning. And you know, we keep bringing this up. A civil war is going to happen in America. We're going to lose our democracy because we have such complete opposite thinking. Now, I don't think that's the majority. I think the majority of us are moderate, are centrist, going, okay, come on, really, people? We could figure this out. You know, I understand there's the fringes, but the kids need to be proficient in school. The kids should not be fed junk food on taxpayer dollars. I mean, there's common sense stuff. But no, media and politics want to divide you. And it's all divide, and it's all about the elections. You know, I used to live in a time when the Super Bowl was one of the most important things. Now it's midterms, and it's people are living and dying for the next election. You shouldn't be an American that can't stand your president. You shouldn't be an American that we should, depending on who wins, feel that president is representing us. feel proud, respect our president. And we go back and forth with looking at our executive branch and being divided. So teachers, look, I love you and I appreciate those of you that work with our students, but if your priorities is all about politics and then you can't even spell it correctly, maybe you shouldn't be in the teachers union. 1-877-Daliah, don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, I keep seeing these enemas and these recommendations to do enemas to improve your health. And I'm not a fan of enemas. I mean, I don't think anybody's a true fan. Those really aren't fun. But an enema is a solution that you would infuse into your rectum to try to help clean out your bowel. And for some, we've had to use it in terms of impactions or people with severe constipation and motility issues. But many individuals are using other, shall we say, applications for it, and claiming online that that's healthy. And, we as physicians are really confused as to why there is such a fascination with enemas. And I think the reason why is it is kind of a cool concept if you're constipated. It's not something we recommend for basic constipation. If you have basic constipation, we recommend drinking fluid. Right? Because we need to soften the stool that's in the earlier part of your colon. We recommend fiber, diets that are rich in bulk-forming foods, fibery vegetables, things like that can make you poop, walking and not sitting all the time, exercising, and relaxing, not trying to potty in the 30 seconds you have before you have to run and catch a bus or catch your ride. And so some individuals have used Fleet's enema or some of these saline solutions to help draw fluid. How they work is, one, they provide moisture and sometimes some lubrication, and two, it causes an osmotic sort of reaction where if something is more salty, your body tries to dump fluid from the colon into it, tries to wet to, shall we say, neutralize the osmolality or the saltiness of the solution. And it ends up helping the bowel move, and sometimes just the pressure and the mechanics of there being that extra fluid helps the bowel push stool out. So for some individuals, they're going, oh, this is easy. Do not use laxatives long-term or frequently. Your body could get very dependent on them. Not to mention, you could hurt yourself, perforate. We don't usually recommend these. Well, the one thing I have been hearing a lot of are coffee enemas, where people will inject a coffee solution in hopes of detoxifying the body. Well, if you want to detox, sticking something in the bottom few centimeters of your GI tract is not really going to get to your liver. And coffee enemas got its root back in the 1920s. This is according to Fox News. It was a component of the Gerson therapy and alternative cancer treatment. And I've been hearing about coffee enemas, even from my grandparents. I remember as a little girl. So using brewed coffee, it needs to be room temperature, okay? It can't be piping hot. And don't do this. But the procedure involves using water mixed with brewed coffee, flushed into the colon. It's held for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then things expel. Now, the idea that it is detoxing is not new. Back in Greek, Egyptian times, they would do this. But it's very, shall we say, misunderstood. And when people say that they feel better after a coffee enema, I don't know if it's because they finally had a bowel movement, if it's placebo, but I have not seen data that says your Folgers or Maxwell House is going to detox your upper GI organs if infused into your lower GI. And the other thing that people don't understand is the colon is a fascinating organ, and it is a very delicate organ. And when you hear of people getting colon cancer because of the foods they eat, and you're thinking, but wait a second, the colon is more of a holding facility, and why is the left side of the colon or the latter part of your GI system so much more vulnerable to colon cancer? You can have right-sided colon cancer, but the majority of colon cancers are left in the sigmoid or descending colon. That's why sigmoidoscopies became very popular before colonoscopies, because the majority of colon cancers were left-sided, but you could get right-sided colon cancers, which are higher up in your GI tract. Because how it goes is you have your mouth, you have your esophagus, you have your stomach, then you have your small intestines, then you have your cecum, which is the right side of your intestine, then you have the ascending, you have the transverse that transverses across the abdomen, then you have your descending colon, then you have your sigmoid, and then rectum, and then anus. So if you eat foods high in nitrites and nitrates and preservatives, these cause damage if they're sitting there next to your bowel wall. And this is why we recommend fiber and frequent bowel movements. So one could say, but you see, Daliah, Dr. Daliah, if you have components there, you need to flush it out all the time. Not entirely. When you do any sort of flushing, now you are losing valuable cells, lining. Your body was not designed for there to be waves and pressure or pressures of fluid there. That's not what your bowel was designed for. So you could actually lose some of the protective mechanisms that you have by infusing fluid in there. Now, I'm not saying all enemas are bad. As I said, every now and then in medicine, we may have to perform one. But it's not something that should be done. Let's say your body does absorb the caffeine, and you are concentrating brewed coffee into a solution. That could cause caffeine toxicity, seizures, palpitations of the heart. It's not something to play around with. If you want to drink coffee, go ahead. We have had tons of studies showing how coffee has multiple health benefits, even on your liver. But the idea that you were going to detox your liver, if you want to detox your liver, eat healthy. Give your liver what it needs. You'll hear people will starve themselves, only drink lemon juice, and they're saying they're doing that to detox the liver. Your liver needs to know that you are having a steady flow of proper hydration, proper electrolytes, proper nutrients, and less preservatives and fewer toxins. So if you want to detox your liver, don't be popping so many pills like Tylenol. Don't be drinking a bunch of alcohol. Don't be eating crappy food. Don't be eating high-fat food. The liver doesn't necessarily get completely free of toxins if you starve yourself and drink some lemon juice. It needs the non-stress. It has to make hormones, or it has to produce bile. It has to produce enzymes and things that allow your body to function properly. And if you read something online that is something, I don't know, a movie star does, how do you know that's going to work? 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this is a question that keeps coming up, and more often now is, what if you can't see a doctor and the corporation, because now most of the time you aren't seeing your neighborhood family doc. You are going to a corporation for medicine, or a chain or a franchise for medicine, and there's going to be employees. Some of them are going to be MDs, DOs, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, And people always ask, who should you see? When should you see whom? And I've worked with nurse practitioners and physician assistants my whole career. I love it. I have seen amazing, amazing work. However, every now and then there's a case where there's, shall we say, a mishap in medicine. And when a doctor does the mishap, you don't really hear much about it. But if it's a PA, a physician assistant, that makes news. Well, the UK and their NHS system, their National Health Service, has really been struggling as it pertains to having enough doctors, having enough money. In fact, I'm hearing some of the physician residents, after they get out of training and want to become consultants, which is kind of the full-fledged physician in the UK, there's not enough positions, and some of them are even leaving the medicine, a medical career, because these residents that are now becoming full-fledged consultants or full-fledged physicians are, even though you're basically a physician anyway, even as a resident, but in the UK considered a consultant, they're struggling to find jobs. The NHS, in efforts to save money, are hiring physician assistants. Now, physician assistants, they go through some rigorous training. And every physician assistant I had was fantastic. And it's because they worked with you as a partner. I didn't have them work under me. I worked with them side by side. But I taught them. And I taught them things they have to think about that they might not have gotten in school, that I didn't get in school, but I got in training and working with other doctors. And so physician assistants sometimes don't have the liability training that a lot of us doctors get. And so many of my doctor colleagues that have gotten sued, I don't want to say all of the cases, but many of the cases happened because their associate or mid-level provider had maybe not thought of something. And so when doctors hear of other mistakes that might be made, they then teach their PA, so you don't want to do that. You want to think about that. You want to understand that the lab might not always run the test. Because most of the doctors are the ones that get sued. So if PAs and nurse practitioners, they get sued, but if they don't necessarily feel the heat of the lawsuit, they aren't learning like us doctors are. I can't tell you how many times as a medical student I was rotating through and all the doctors were talking about is how they got sued and what they got sued for. Well, the physician assistants, their training is very, very rigorous, and they have to learn the biochem, the genetics, the pharmacology. They might not have the same sort of time with physicians to be able to hear all their legal woes if they are rotating with other physician assistants. So physician assistants might be protected from that drama if they're an employee, but the doctor who runs the practice gets sued. And I've been very, very fortunate. I've never been sued. And I was not ever having an issue with a physician assistant. And the reason why is when I did notice a physician assistant forgot something, I had reviewed each and every one of their charts. Now, in the NHS, the UK, they are suggesting that physician assistants only see patients if every chart gets reviewed. Most physician assistants don't need that. Most physician assistants are good. But because of what I heard happen to my other colleagues, I was like, you know what, let me just double check, because then it's a teaching tool. And I could review a chart really quickly and easily so I could see the patients. Also, another reason why is in my practice, it was the patient could see any one of us, and I want to know all the patients. And I want the patients to know that even if they can't see me that day, I'm still involved. And you're still going to get my opinion. So you get two medical providers' opinions in one. So when you have the opportunity to see a provider, if it's a physician assistant or nurse practitioner, you're lucky. Count your blessings. Because, again, the nurse practitioner training, the PA training is still a lot. And still very thorough and very robust. But when people ask me, why are we seeing or hearing about lawsuits or issues, or liability as it comes to, they used to call them mid-levels. I don't like to call them mid-levels because honestly, I like partnering them They're doing the same work, and they get paid less than doctors, but they get paid less because of the liability and because of the years of training. But oftentimes these individuals are doing the exact same work as a medical provider. They're seeing the patients, and so that's going to be probably revisited a lot more. But the NHS is hiring physician assistants because they're cheaper. Well, why would a physician assistant be more at risk for liability? Is it that they get less training? I mean, there are fewer months. It is not as rigorous as medical, because not only does physician assistant school, after college you have physician assistant school, but you also have residencies and training, not only for physician assistants as well as medical providers. But yeah, MDs do put in more years, but that's going to change. While we in America are dealing with such a physician shortage, there's a big movement to recommend that doctors get shorter training and fewer years. I'm mixed on that because I don't think we got enough. I wish I got more urology. I delivered enough babies. I love delivering babies. I think I got plenty of that. And now that I don't deliver babies, I probably, would have wanted maybe more derm, more. But I love the fact that I delivered as many babies as I did. Very cool. I think I delivered over 100. But, and it is fun. I love delivering babies. But, there's only so much time in the day. And so I think I would have wanted more derm. I think I would have wanted more neuro, more urology. Because I saw that a lot more in my practice. But if you have a choice between seeing a provider and you're trying to figure out who is the best provider for you, don't just look at their letters after their name. Okay, look at are they available? Are they listening to you? Don't just look at reviews, because exes can go on reviews and just start bad mouthing, and there's no way to confirm if they were real patients. But go to the medical board, see if any of them have had.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.